about those. So a couple of other ones that we're watching. There's House Bill 13. This involves school and child care testing within the schools. The sponsor of this bill has tried to pass it for several years, and it's mostly the child care centers that have issues with it because it would cost them quite a bit more to do the lead testing and things like that. I don't know. It doesn't sound like it has a lot of support. Personally, I support it because I have kids in the school system, and I'd like to know that their water is good and clean. I think most parents would like that for a lot of the old schools that we have. So I had talked to Hunter Shaheen actually this fall, and our county has been proactive in that, and they've already gone through and tested all of them. In fact, they've already replaced quite a few drinking fountains that were positive for lead that was in them, some of the old pipes, and that's cleaned it up, is what he's told me. And so nice. That's a good thing and something that I think that is a good bill, but we'll see what happens there. House Bill 14, this has to do with water conservancy districts and the way they're appointed, but it doesn't affect us because it only involves those that have multiple counties that appoint to water conservancy districts. And then 24, House Bill 24, is state engineer electronic filing. So this allows the state engineer to send correspondence electronically versus paper. And that's a good bill. And then the only one that I've seen that's been very negative is House Bill 144, and that's a water pricing bill that's trying to tie the pricing of water to the size of a lot. And so that's just a little bit backwards. We tend to price ours basis off of water rights that people bring in, the actual wet water, versus the size of a lot. So I don't think that's going to go very far. But so the other item I would mention again was the reuse, and that's out of the wastewater treatment plant. We're actually working with Reed to get on part of a planning through the NRCS where they will be able to do all of the environmental work on that, and then when we go to construct, they'll pay up to 75% of the construction as well. So you can receive a 75% grant and only 25%. And from what I understand, that 25% can be matched through sweat equity as well. And so the idea right now is to potentially build a pond by the wastewater treatment plant, store the winter water in that pond, and then in the summer, we'll take that water and pump it up to a farmer that's fairly close to the area. And so it's very similar, kind of the same concept idea as what we're doing out at Quichapa, where that farmer would then be able to idle their well, save the groundwater. And again, this is in a location where there's severe amounts of decline. It's in the Enoch Graben area potentially, where that water would be delivered and they'd idle their well.
Well, and on that too, Paul, this isn't, and we want to help Enoch, because the Enoch Graben is severely declining. But truth of the matter is, Cedar City pulls as much water out of the aquifer as Enoch does. It's about equal, and so
yeah, they have pumps there.
I think that
in the Enoch area, right?
They have wells out there, and so I think it behooves Cedar City and all of us to help Enoch in that.
Aside from that, we had a good year where our connection fees are match an all-time high over the last couple years within our system. So we did well that way, and we were able to put away close to $500,000 to go towards our future projects. So we're doing good financially. Any other questions?
No.
Want to talk about our little meeting?
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, the 16th of February, there's the distribution meetings from the state engineer, and they are broadcast virtually. But Marilyn, in her campaign, was able to go out and meet with a lot of people within the streets that had some concerns about water, and that was the other thing I did have on here, and the groundwater management plan and the effects of it. And so what we've done is we've got together with Marilyn, we've got reserved the festival hall. So we will actually broadcast those meetings. So anybody that's interested in attending those, they begin at 3:00 for, I believe, the surface, and then the subsurface or the pumpers that begins at 5 o'clock, and then our meeting will follow that thereafter, probably around 6 o'clock, where we will have regional engineer Nathan Moses and myself and Marilyn and then Paul and Commissioner Bleak. I'm not sure if you're going to be there.
Yeah,
I'll do
you'll
my
be
best.
there.
I'll be there.
Good.
Yes.
We want another meeting. It'll be good.
That's all right. That's what we signed up for.
That's right.
Marilyn's bringing pizza, by the way.
Maryland's bringing pizza. So that will be, again, that later meeting will be at 6 o'clock just to address specific issues to the groundwater management plan and how that may affect individual
The
water
farmers
rights.
and ranchers, as I was campaigning, were very concerned about the water and the Conservancy District and what they were doing. I think misinformation, I think education is a huge part of what we need to do. And that's why I decided we better, first thing, get going on meetings to give them that education.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
And the Water District has done a great job with just building head gates. I know over to Western Rock for years we had an excavator sitting there, and we'd have to move blocks and always messing with but they've put in a head gate where the farmers can come in and themselves move some boards and take. It's always been our intention to let the farmers take what they need, but we just want what's left over, what would have normally gone out to Quitch Pond, gone to waste and evaporated. And so this really gives the farmers control where they can go in there without having to get on a machine or do some things. They can get in there with move some boards and control the water easier. And so I think that's a really great step that you guys have done. So.
Yeah, thank you. We tend to do that at the Schmidt recharge pit as well.
Are you doing that too? You're putting a head gate in there for...
We plan to do a similar diversion there that we have at Western Rock, and then we also are going to put one in at Horse Alley that'll be more operable as well. So, yeah, those head gates and diversions, again, like you said, we fully understand priority of water rights, and we intend to follow it completely. And like Paul said, we just hope that nothing gets wasted. So,
what about I went for a walk yesterday and walked down to the airport and looked at that. Will you be able to put some kind of head gate on that to control that better, easier?
I talked to Jonathan about that, and the main issue right now, from what I understand, is the pipe that feeds that. Of course, there's so much sediment that always comes down that we all deal with. But the pipe that, after that current head gate, and once it goes into that pipe, it's full of sediment right now, and so it's not able to take the full amount. And so we've got to figure out a different way to maybe design that, or else other clean out options. But yeah, we need to. I don't know if an open channel is better or something like that becomes more easier to clean out.
Off now, or is it just?
It's not totally plugged off, but they're not able to take.
Is it taking enough water that it'll clean it out on its own, or is it?
It's not right now. I know they're working on sending
Cleaning that.
getting a jet down there to clean it out, but I don't think that they were able to get as far as they needed. So we may either have to go in and put in some additional locations where they can reach it from other angles to jet it out. But
Do you have a question?
I do.
Okay.
I'm Judy Vandenberg Jensen. I think I've met with you before, Paul.
okay.
I have a question since my dad we have that farmland right there where you're talking about a Quitchapa. How is that going to affect his well and his irrigation process when you do that recharge reuse out there?
So it is. It really shouldn't affect his well. Well, I would hope that it would, but where you are, probably 7 miles, 7 miles. Maybe it's not that far,
No,
but
it's
To
not.
the east.
well,
No.
this is clear on the north end where the recharge will occur,
Okay.
and so from the north end of the lake to the south end of the lake, I'm not sure how many miles that is.
Well, you know where his property is,
Yeah.
where his well is. Okay, so the city has all those wells just barely north of him. And when the city, and Dad didn't document that, but when the city drilled some of those wells, his water table went down.
Mm-hmm.
And so is he gonna be required to use that system rather than, what he's currently using, or how's that gonna go?
So I guess, are you talking about the recharge project, or are you talking about the well that's being drilled in Sunset
Well, I
subdivision?
guess maybe both, yeah.
Okay, let me address the first. The The recharge system, I would hope they would have more of a positive impact. I just don't know that it will, because there are so many layers of clay underneath Quichapa Lake from the north end to the south end. And so the biggest impact for recharge is going to happen kind of in that north end. It'll take a long time. I'm talking geologic time before you may see an impact, a positive impact.
So those people that are really using that recharged or reused water, are they gonna have like in ditches, or are they gonna have little, how does that work?
So you've seen out there the way that it currently is. If you drive out Highway 56, there's a lazy river. There's those things that we put in a pump and things that way. We would pump that up traditionally up to a recharge
Okay,
location where it would percolate and go down into the ground. We believe that it's more efficient if you were to take that and put it onto the crops. That way you don't lose anything to evaporation. So you take that, and rather than pump from the ground through an irrigation well, you pump straight out of the lake with that cleaner water and irrigate your crops with that lake water. That saves the groundwater. In essence, it's recharge. It's not technically recharge, but it's not drawing out of the aquifer anymore.
Idling the wells, right?
Right.
yeah, but his well would be affected by that because we're too far south, is that correct?
Well, it would be, I don't know how long it would take, right? I'm just saying, what I know is there are lots of layers of clay, and it takes longer for water to travel through clay. And so your impact, it's not going to be immediate.
So we're just barely east of Sunset, our property borders there.
Uh-huh.
And one of my questions is the Conservancy ever going to consider, say someone buys that property there, would they consider providing water there if we work with some water rights or whatever?
That is, yes, part of our business model. We don't treat anybody any different from any developer. So you would have to bring in water rights, and you would have to, the developer would have to install the tank and the things like that.
So it would have to be a
But yes, that is, if they're within our district boundaries, then we definitely, that's part of our business model.
Your district boundaries, or
Yes.
you're just out of it?
No, you're in it, yeah. And as far as affecting your well, the board talked about this extensively on the pros and cons of potentially drilling another well in that area. But eventually they came to the decision that it's in the best interest to drill a well, because there were two entities that were going to drill two separate wells, and they would utilize their full water rights. Whereas if we were to collaboratively go in together and drill one well, and then the district is a water provider and you sell water per gallon, people are generally more water conscious when you're paying per gallon.
So where are you gonna drill a new well up in Sunset? How close it'll be to Dad's?
It'll be pretty close to the existing well that's there. It'll be just across the street in the county pit.
They've got several wells out there, haven't they, in the city?
So not where the city is, it's across to the west of Annenberg. The county drilled a,
You know where the large pile of gravel is? Where they've been, right, just east of the gravel pile, between the road and the gravel
That's not
pile?
far from Dad.
yeah.
That's where the new well will be.
But what Paul's saying too is if they don't drill a well and furnish water, all of those property owners down in Sunset could each drill their own well, and they would probably use far more water than
Right.
this model, so.
And that's the issue that we would come across too, if we just subdivide that,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
like that wet water. Okay.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate all you do,
Good.
Paul, thank you.
Thanks.
Commission reports. Paul, go ahead.
Senior center's come along great. It's getting exciting. The building's pretty much done. They've got a little concrete to pour. They've got to do some steps for that egress out that northwest corner. They've got the elevator, should be here any day, and that's going to take a couple of weeks to do, but it's really looking good, and really pleased with how that's coming along. Our contractor, Carter Enterprises, is doing a fantastic job, and appreciate their good work, and all the subcontractors. Paul mentioned the Quichapa project we're working on. That's been exciting to see that come to completion, and appreciate our departments helping and working with the Water Conservancy District on that. I'm working on some pricing for a steel building for Joyce for the fair. She wants to get a building built to store floats and some of those things for the fair, and that's something I'm working on. Just one other quick thing. There was a tweet made on Saturday by an individual that was concerned about an Iron County commissioner infecting people with COVID. Yes, my wife had COVID. She was no longer contagious, so Dr. Blodgett said, Paul, if you get a test, you'll be released from your quarantine. I had a test on Monday of last week and Friday. They were both negative. And so if there's any rumors out there that I'm out there being irresponsible, they're not true. I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you. That's all I have.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Please.
Paul, Mike and I was able to attend a fabulous event.
It's cool.
Maybe he wanted to talk about
Go
it.
ahead, please. You talk.
But it's food, Farmers Feeding Utah, and the Utah Farm Bureau, the extension Create Better Health, Hunger Solutions Institute, all went in together, and it was a fabulous. Down at the Dixie Center, they had bags and bags and bags of food. I believe there was about 1,200, is that what they said, that were served? I think they told us that later.
Maybe I know they had 1 million pounds of food.
Yeah. Oh my heck, it was just fabulous. And it was all from local farmers. So with the COVID, what happened was the farmers were having a hard time moving their food too. So the Farm Bureau said, what can we do? So they raised funds. They went out and asked for donations. So they took food, and they've done a lot of these up north, but this was in St. George on the 29th, the one that we went down to. Scott Stubbs is the president of the Iron County Farm Bureau here in Iron County, and he asked us all to come. Paul would have liked to have come, but because of his quarantine, he stayed home. Thank goodness. But it was just wonderful. There was so many volunteers. The cars were lined up outside, and they brought the cars right into the building. They popped their trunks. They loaded their food in the back. It was all fresh farm food. Potatoes, onions. There was meat.
Cheese. There was a lot of
cheese. A lot of cheese. And you could tell that the people were thrilled to death. I mean, they didn't ask for any credentials or anything. They just had emailed all of them if they were on any assistance, and they came in droves, and it was fabulous. And I just, think that eventually Scott said that we'd like to do that here, and I think he's going to start working on that, because I had several people say, how come we can't have that here? And it would be fabulous for our county too, because, of the need.
And Marilyn and I met with the organizers of the event, and they're in full support of working it out in Iron County. So that's something we have to look forward to.
Yeah,
cool.
It was great. So I'm going to talk about a couple of the bills going through at the legislature. We just got a email from Mike Worthen, SB 168, and that's one coming out of Moab. What they're saying is they don't want the street legal ATVs and UTVs going through their town. Well, it doesn't make sense to me, because they get a huge boost to their economy when those people come in. And I don't know whether they've had a problem from it or whatever, but I think that we would be opposed to that, because those the recreational vehicles are so huge right now, and they're bringing a lot into our economies, the benefit to our hotels and restaurants and that type of thing. So that was one of them. The other one I wanted to talk about, and this one is just breaks my heart. So Rex Ship has a bill. It's House Bill 92, and it's what he wants to protect our kids, and these unproven treatments use our kids for guinea pigs while sterilizing them, and so they give them puberty blockers, hormones, surgeries. He doesn't feel like that this is right, and I have a problem with it also. I would imagine a lot of people in Utah would. He has gotten huge pushback, and I would encourage everyone that can to find it on hb92.org and research it. Call your legislatures and help him. He had a wonderful bill, and they've stripped it down, but he feels like we need to do something to help these kids. And I, totally behind him on that. He's a wonderful legislature, and we really need to help him with that. Okay.
Just a couple of things. Marilyn talked about the Farm Bureau event. I met with our economic development folks the other day for a couple of days in some meetings about the inland port and the possibility of bringing a satellite version of the inland port to Iron County. Just so you know, there's a lot of negative press about the inland port in the Salt Lake area. I think it's unwarranted. This would be a big impact for our area, making our local producers and stuff have more access to rail and be able to ship things. I won't go into all the details, but just so you know that is moving forward. We met with Ginger from the Inland Port Authority. We also met with a whole bunch of local producers to talk about how that could be beneficial to their operations. And so it was really good. In those meetings, we talked with both Iron County producers and Washington County producers. It's really beneficial. And so just so you know, we're moving forward with that full steam ahead. The other thing I wanted to talk about just really briefly is our COVID in Iron County. There's been a lot of frustration. I've actually had quite a few emails, texts, folks that are frustrated that they have not been able to reserve a space to get a shot. And here's what we're dealing with. Not Iron County, but southern Utah. So the 5-county area in southern Utah is getting about 2,000 doses of vaccination a week. That's for the 5 counties. Iron County gets about 600-ish. We get about 30%. We're doing the best we can. The lieutenant governor was in the Southwest Regional Health Department the other day. She says, "What can we do?" And they said only 2 words: more vaccine. Iron County is set. Our health department's trained on this for years. We have the capacity of giving about 45,000 doses of vaccine in a month's time. We're only getting 2,000 per week, or 2,000 a week, and that's for 5 counties. If you go onto their website to sign up for a time, those times are filling up in about 6 minutes, those slots. Good news is our cases are down significantly. The way they described it is we've kind of had this graph that goes up and up and up and up, and all of a sudden we've dropped. We've gone from, at worst, there are some days that we had 30% positive tests. We're down to, I think our latest one was 13%, but we have been in the single digits. They attribute that to, well, they said we don't know what to attribute that to. We won't know that until years down the road when the research is all out there. But people are being vaccinated. viruses have a natural course of about a year-ish, and we're starting to see that drop off. But we're not quite out of the woods yet. I had the corona a couple weeks ago, and it was terrible. I'm about the only thing I can taste is lemonade. So water tastes disgusting. I can't drink soda, and I haven't had soda or caffeine in over a month because it's disgusting. The only thing I can drink is lemonade. So that's why I'm sipping on a lemonade, because water's gross. But I'm really proud of Iron County, and would not have, early on we did great, and we were not affected by it too much. As we moved into the fall and over the winter, that's not the case, and we've kind of got our butts kicked a little bit. But we are on a good decline, and so let's just keep that in our thoughts and prayers.
Commissioner, just to piggyback back on that a little bit, I've been watching the numbers, and it's been Washington County, has the largest population, and they've been 22, 23, 24 in ICU and I've been, the report yesterday, they were down to 10, so that's great news. But one of the challenges, and I talked to Dr. Blodgett last week about some of the challenges they're having, is everybody's trying to do their best, but right now they're focusing on the 85 and over population of getting them vaccinated. And the challenge they're having is when the state comes out and announces, like, for instance, they just barely came out and announced that as of March 1st, they're going to start vaccinating everyone that has pre-existing conditions. Well, it's on the honor system. And so first of all, they don't read the fine print that says March 1st. They start calling immediately. And where it's on the honor system, they're really worried about just getting inundated with people that, he said, we really need to take care of that 85 plus and then the 70 plus and work that way. They're frustrated right now because they're getting inundated with calls and pressure, and people are disappointed when they can't get in. And so I communicated some of those frustrations with the state yesterday through an email. Anyway, everybody's trying to do their best, but it's just.
But what about the location? Did he ever find a different place for his location? They were having trouble with enough parking for that many people moving in and out at the.
He came over to the senior center last Friday, and Commissioner Wood and I showed him through there. But it would be a great facility to use, but there's still probably not that much more parking that he has at his center. And we talked about maybe if he reached out to the LDS Church and were able to set up in a cultural hall and where there was plenty of parking, they could maybe do that, stay there for a few months and use the facility like that. But he's looking for maybe a better location to do mass vaccinations. So.
Yeah, I think hope is in the future. Let's get her done. Let's take about a 5-minute break. We're over time, but breaks are helpful. A lot of times we can speed the process up.
Yeah.
So we'll take a break for 5 minutes. Let's come back at 20 after, and we'll see you then. Good morning.
I don't know if you want to run you've got Kevin Bunnell and the DWR here.
Right.
I don't know if you want to make them sit through all of it.
No, let's not.
Go and clear down.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I think that's what
Thank you.
We'll see, Mike.
Is there's the PILT?
Yeah.
Okay. We can.
I don't think Matt Rhodes is here.
Oh, okay.
They've got. I don't know.
Well, we can.
Just totally up to you. I mean, I'm glad to do these.
What everyone else thinks.
Right. No, we can bump those guys up since they're here.
Oh yeah.
If you want to shoot me the KID file, I'll come back and get it pulled up, but otherwise.
These won't take very long.
Well.
Well, let's just bump these guys to the front, just so we can get them out of here.
Transparent.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, this is kind of a different process. Usually I just go to your guys' engineer, but, that's not working right now.
Yeah, a few more days.
Anyways,
Okay.
perfect, thanks.
Commissioner Wood?
Do I need to turn this on, John? Apparently
I think
it's not
so.
on.
It's looking for a signal.
Okay.
That's because it's probably off.
Yeah. I got
Probably
it.
because it's on.
Turned it on. It's starting to load now.
There you go.
This is good times. It's the Zoom, closing argument for the Union Pacific Railroad issue. So I'm just gonna be actually done.
Okay.
If you need me to just don't come out and get me. I'll just be out there
When is what do we have our prelim on?
today, this afternoon.
Oh, great.
Sharp.
Okay.
Sharp.
No,
Sharp yours?
no.
Well, we have one today. I can't remember.
I thought we did, but I didn't. I still haven't been to work to get my subpoena. So,
Today is the 8th, right?
yes. Whatever his name is, Johnson.
Oh, Sean Johnson.
Sean Johnson.
Sorry, Chris, Sean Johnson. So work this thing just-
Last 6 months I lived in Oregon, I lived on the.
We have it. I don't know why they can't get it, because I looked at it on Friday. We do have it. So you anticipate us going past lunch?
No, in fact, we should be out early, but then we have a Zoom meeting at 11:30. A real short one.
It'll be less.
Do you want to do it from here? Do you want to try and make it back into Cedar for that?
Whatever you tell me.
Well, you're the one that has the call.
Well, are you staying here all day? Are you going back to Cedar if you don't have to?
I can, but if I don't have to, I can stay here too. Whatever you want to do, I can do either. As well.
No, I can stay.
Begins October 1st.
I'm good.
2:30-ish, but you know how it always is, like you
Yeah.
have to hurry up and wait and stuff.
Yeah.
So then I will try and text and cuts from that.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent. Just chilling.
Hey, why you guys are all right here? Well, you guys are all right here. I got an article from somebody about you know, there's always been this big push to sanctuary counties for guns, right, second. And Iron County and Cedar City already passed ordinance, or resolutions, they weren't ordinances. I've always felt like that was good enough, and and like Ken Carpenter said, he said, I've always felt like trying to write something else is almost an insult to the Constitution. In light, there's a county back in Missouri that, in light of these gun registrations,
Yes.
things she lived in.
Okay, I've got to talk to the IT people again, because we needed a camera. It looked like they set up the Zoom, right? Okay, so I'll just have them come and,
I
You can have the link that way. I mean, I have my laptop,
you might bring it just in case, but they said they would bring, yeah.
but, if they can set something else up, that'd be good.
Yeah, I think they will be able to. I asked them if they could, but I think they'll need a camera, because they asked me if I needed one, and I didn't think I did, but I'll go back and talk to them. And I thought it was at 4, and so I've got to get them to come a little earlier, 3.
Yeah, I think that
First one starts at 3.
yeah, 3 to 5.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Hopefully it's not later than 6 when we start, but
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it'll be good.
yeah.
So you got a little presentation to do and talk about?
Yeah, I'll talk about water
There's gonna be
rights.
so many people that
Cool.
lost their guns at voting in Exodus.
Yeah,
I don't know where it's,
that'll be great.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Oh, you're gonna get drinks? Is that what they said?
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. All right.
Hey, thank you,
Yep.
Paul.
See you, John.
See you, thanks, Paul.
All right, welcome back. We're gonna have a little change, a slight change in the program. We're gonna skip over to item number 6 first. Item number 6 is a presentation by UDOT regarding the right-of-way issues in the Woods Ranch area. And we'll turn the time over to Matt Rhodes. We've
Yeah.
got some other more complicated stuff before you, and so let's not
We
make
better get you, 'cause
let's not
yours
make
won't
you
be
guys
too.
wait around.
Perfect. No, that works.
And we're gonna go to DNR next, so we can get you guys out of here before the
a
other
little
stuff.
bit different than how we normally do this, but right now you guys don't have a county engineer. That's usually who I talk
Right.
to on this kind of
I
stuff.
think
so.
he comes on today.
The 8th, is today the 8th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today
Yeah.
starts.
Today's his first day.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so is what we've got is we've got a proposed passing lane project. I shouldn't say proposed. We've got it funded. We went and had the survey done. You can kind of see where the right-of-way line is. You have a fill line. The yellow line's our cut line. Let's see. What is this?
Yeah, and the laser doesn't work on the
Oh.
TV very well, darn it.
Okay. Do you want me to point at this, or how do you want me to? What's the best way so I can kind of? Okay, so if
Yeah,
you-
that's fine.
if you're looking at this, this is our right-of-way line. Our cut line is going to be this yellow line right here, and by cut line is what I mean. That's where the ditch is going to be to catch all of the runoff water and so on and so forth.
Off the highway.
Yep, and we're really tight in that area. We have just barely enough right-of-way to put this passing lane in. And one of the critical things is where this cut line is right at the very bottom, lowest point of that ditch is gonna be where our clear zone is. And to meet the MUTCD standards and the UDOT federal highway standards, we've gotta come at a 6-to-1 to that point, and then we're gonna come up at a 4-to-1 on the other side. There, it's gonna jump up to a 2-to-1. And so this gray line right here is that fence that is across Woods Ranch. So you can kind of see that conflict in relation to this cut line right there. And so we need to look at,
Do you need a little bit more right away to?
no, I think we're okay with right away.
Need to
but that
move
fence
the
is-
fence.
The fence is gonna be impacted.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of starting that conversation, so kind of a timeline. We've been held up on our EA documents another 100 days. So we're hoping that this is going to go out to bid like the 1st of July, August, somewhere in there. But we wanted to kind of get ahead so we don't have anything else hold us up.
So will
on
you
it.
be able to do the project later this summer then?
No, we're looking at 2022.
Okay.
But we just don't want any more holdups to push it off further than that. So,
And it'd be okay to move that fence this year if we
Yes.
was able to.
yep.
Is that what, do we need to, would that be our responsibility
Well,
to move that?
Ideally, yes, but, when I spoke to Commissioner Wood last week, is what I would like to do is this is just kind of a, hey, let's get this conversation started. I'd like to get another meeting set up, possibly with the new engineer when he comes on, get our designers, our survey guy, because we have had this surveyed. This is coming from our survey. And I'll get our project manager as well, because he's over the funds, and then at that point, that's where the question could be asked. If there's any UDOT participation, or if he's expecting you guys to move it. Maybe another question, is that fence needed in that area? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm
think it is.
There's also
probably is.
this I do believe is the lower access.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh no, this is the lower one. So that upper one also has a sign. So you've got a monument sign that's, roughly right in here. It says something, welcome to Woods Ranch.
That'll need to be moved also,
Correct.
that sign.
That's gonna be impacted. And then on both of these accesses, there's a stop sign. We're gonna have those relocated. That'll come out of our budget for
UDOT's
the
part.
project. Yep.
I wonder if, as you get closer and you get to where the engineer's on the ground making marks, I wonder if once we know that, then we have access to like a prison work crew or somebody that maybe could do
Sure.
that inexpensively.
Yep. So we've had boots on the grounds. This is where this survey's coming from. We've had our surveyors out there. The only thing that they didn't do was put lath down, just because we were so far out. Plus we knew, winter was coming up. So that's where they got all these survey lines from. So we do have some pretty good data already.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wondered if
Sure.
I mean, short of our engineer doing it, but I mean, if you guys have marks on the ground and the guys can
Yeah,
follow it for a fence and come in a few feet or whatever, then
Yeah, and we can. That was kind of some of this discussion that we had before I'd spoken with you guys. Is, you know, what do we need to do to get some marks on the ground? They said it shouldn't be that big of a deal to get up there and get some lath in there on the right-of-way line marking. So
Yeah, that would be good.
I could organize a meeting between you and our,
okay.
Mr. Wilson. What's his first name? I can't think of it.
Yeah, and I'd like to meet him anyways because
Yeah.
I work
That'd
with
be-
the
Yeah,
engineer
Yeah,
a lot.
you work with
so.
him a lot.
Can't think
Yeah.
of his name. What's his first name? Where's our HR?
I'd like to be.
Interview him.
So
Can't think of it.
Jeff?
No.
No.
I can't think of it. But anyway, I'll call you.
'Kay,
We'll
perfect.
organize maybe a
Okay.
meeting on site or something up there.
yeah, whatever we got to do. Because like I says, I'll get our surveyors and our project manager.
I'd like to
and
go
our
up there too.
Designer.
It may take
Yeah,
some
yeah,
of
sure.
our road department, right?
It may, since we don't have a prison work crew.
I know. That's what I was just gonna
For a
say.
for a
Our
minute.
prison work crew is non-existent, and we
Sure.
need them really bad. I was trying to find some kind of a work crew that we could borrow, but
I can't either.
we need them. Yeah.
Yeah, because they'll be able to give, you know, our project manager and our designer should be able to kind of give you a few more details and things like that. But that's just kind of the gist of what our plan is. So.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Yeah, let's.
Thank you for that.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
Richard,
no problem.
Richard Wilson.
Okay, perfect. Thank you guys for.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Number 7 is presentation of the PILT payment from the state of Utah. Welcome, Kevin Bunnell.
Thank you, Commissioners. That's our PILT payment, so you can maybe use that to move the fence for UDOT so they can get their project.
Nice.
It's not a lot, but a check for about $2,500 for the properties that we own in Iron County. Appreciate the opportunity to be there, Commissioner Wood. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
And look forward to working with you as we go forward. Just a couple of updates, and maybe Reed has already updated you. Things are continuing to get better with the prairie dog situation, and we're now working towards producing what we call a conservation strategy, which we hope is the first step to kind of put all the biological information and the regulatory information in place to then petition for a delisting. Now, that's probably 3 to 5 years out, but we're working in that direction now. The Division of Wildlife has hired a SWCA as a consulting firm to put together the conservation strategy. They've been really good to work with. Reed plays a pretty critical role in that process, bringing the perspective of the local counties. We also have participation from Garfield County and some from Wayne County as well. But really appreciate Reed's help on that, and brings that that kind of local government perspective to the table, which is important to have. Any questions on that before I move on to other things?
No, we really appreciate that effort. That's great.
Yeah, the GCP, the General Conservation Plan that replaced the HCP a couple years ago, seems to be functioning very well. I just judge that by the number of angry phone calls that I get. You guys can probably do the same, and they are way down from what they used to be.
Oh, yeah.
I hope you're experiencing the same thing. That seems to be functioning pretty well, and appreciate the county's help and with working with all the cities on that. It seems to be working. Moving on beyond prairie dogs, we're watching the drought just like everybody else is in relation to our big game populations. In most places, our deer herds are down from what they were, 4 or 5 years ago, which is probably helpful. We're still losing fawns and does right now, just because of they came into the winter with low body weights, and so they're feeling that effect right now. Elk populations in most of our units are below objective. Not all of them. We're still above objective in the Southwest Desert and a couple of places, but we're in better shape now than we were. We will continue to monitor that. Our practice has been, we will put our permit numbers out in April, it's hard to predict what the summer is going to look like in April. And so what we do is come August, if we need to increase our harvest, particularly on our elk populations, that's where most of the conflict is, we will increase the number of tags that we're putting out in August. Now that still puts us behind the curve a little bit, because that means hunts are starting in November, December, and January. We can't be as reactive as the livestock industry, but we do coordinate very closely with the federal land managers to try to make sure we're not contributing to range damage. That's the thing we want to avoid at all costs, so that when we get moisture back, we still have the potential within those rangelands for them to come back and be in good shape. So. We're also working hard with all of our habitat projects to just increase the overall the amount of forage that we have on the landscape. Through the Watershed Restoration Initiative, that's a huge project. I've got Curtis Roundy with me. He's one of our habitat restoration biologists, and he's responsible for this work that you see up here on the bench. And if you have a minute and an interest, I'll let Curtis come up and talk through that a little bit and what the overall plan there is. But if we're out of time, then I understand that as well. What's your preference?
No, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
Okay, Curtis, come on up.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Curtis Roundy. Thanks for taking some time today. So you've probably seen the projects that are taking place kind of scattered throughout the county, but one that's really visible is right here on the Parowan front, just north of Cedar. And the game plan there was originally started about 5 years ago. We were working with a private landowner. Back then I was the Farm Bill biologist, and we did about a 700-acre bull hog on his private land up in the middle elevation country. And come time for our winter deer counts, we lost a whole bunch of deer, and we couldn't find them anywhere. And the reason being is they were sitting in that mid-elevation in that bull hog. And the landowner said, "Hey, I know where your lost deer are. Come with me." And so we went up there, and sure enough, there were all the deer that were normally stacked on the Parowan front up against the fence and doing range damage to our winter range right there. And so with that, we kind of started the wheels spinning and started designing the project that you see now. And we have hopefully it rains and snows on it this year and we can actually see some plant growth, but we have high hopes for it to be really beneficial for the mule deer in that unit. They're on the decline right now and numbers are down. We're hoping that this will allow to not have to have doe hunts and harvest those deer that were doing damage to the winter range. But above and beyond that, we're also realizing that holdover middle elevation country is somewhere that we haven't focused a lot of attention on. And so with that, we're moving to the north a little bit up behind P Hill. We have about 1,800 acres again, which is about the same size as what you saw on the north of Cedar, planned to be masticated there, and all of the old 1970s chainings that are right along there. We're going to go remove the pinyon and juniper growth that's coming back into those chainings and hopefully create that same effect where instead of deer coming from the high elevation country straight to the winter range and staying there for 4 months, they come and have that mid-elevation holdover ground and then move to the winter range, and overall benefit of their health because they don't have to go so far in one movement, as well as benefit to the range to try to improve that so we can grow that population. So there's lots of projects like that, kind of all scattered throughout Iron County right now, but that general mindset is what we're looking at habitat restoration right now with, is through that lens of how can we use the collar data that we've got. We're going out and putting tracking collars that give us GPS locations of these animals. Then we're using that data to see where they travel to and from their summer and winter range on their migration trail. And then we're saying, all right, how can we go and improve fitness with a restoration project in those lines so that we can create those stopover locations with good habitat. So,
are you doing some out west also?
Yeah, so the problem we've had out west is the NEPA documents that allowed work to happen on federal
Little
land
Pine Valley.
got shut down, and so that was all of Hamlin Valley and Pine Valley. And we're extremely hopeful. The word from the BLM is that their NEPA document is out for signatures right now, and as long as everything goes the way it's anticipated, we hope to do work again in Pine Valley and Hamlin Valley starting this fall. And so once we start work out there again, our goal is about 8,000 acres a year in the Southwest Desert. We're going to try to focus heavily on areas where we can work with the landowners to make sure that we don't totally put them off the land, because once we do a project, they have to pull their grazing off of there for 2 to 3 growing seasons. And so we're trying to bounce around systematically so that they can still operate with their livestock operations.
The old reseeds are so overgrown that
right,
that would be the place, because we really can't utilize those. Most of the ranchers cannot utilize those because they're so overgrown. We've had 4 bull elk down right on our hayfield that we had never had before, and we're lost of habitat up in there. We really need some work done up in there.
I've talked with the BLM specifically about that. Normally, previously treated areas are the kind of area you can go to without NEPA and do retreatment. And the problem with those areas out there is they were treated so long ago that the NEPA that they treated it under then is no longer valid now. The degradation has happened to a level that they have to do new NEPA, which is what's on the shelf right now waiting for signatures. And so they're having to follow a different set of rules than what
it's frustrating.
More recent treatments might
Would that be bull hog or chaining out there? Or?
Yeah, and so some of both. We're looking at some of both, and even some prescribed fire in some of the higher elevation country, so that we
that's
can,
the best,
right? And so
you
really
know, those projects that they did the fire on are 50-year projects, where the other ones were only 25-year projects.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, prescribed fire is the best, but it's also the hardest to accomplish. And so we're trying to look at what is the problem and what is the best solution to fix that problem. And the answer is not one answer. It's different for each project area, but we're just trying to do the best that we can do with the resources we have and the likelihood of it actually happening. And so we are going to be doing work there again, though, and the plan is Hamlin Valley, I think, is going to come online first.
Because that was what was shut down, right?
Right, and the Pine Valley NEPA mirrors the Hamlin Valley NEPA. So as soon as the Hamlin Valley NEPA is signed and for sure litigation proof, I guess, then we can go ahead with the Pine Valley NEPA, because they're kind of a mirror image of each other, and start doing work in Pine Valley.
That's what Paul Briggs had told me a long time ago, probably a year ago, is that they were waiting for the Hamlin Valley litigation to end, and then they could move on.
Right. The documents
if they moved on without it, it would just
you'd get litigated in Pine Valley as well. And so make the one litigation proof, and then the other, they would mirror that and make it a document that we can work.
So do these fall into the WRI projects?
Yeah, so all of the projects really around southern Utah, federal, state, and private land, for the most part, go into WRI now. And as soon as they're funded in WRI, they come to my desk, and then I write the contracts and do the project bill pay, and then work with our federal partners to do the project inspection work. Mm-hmm. And so we've got a really great partnership going on right now to do a lot of good things. We just have to have that document that says, go ahead and work here.
That WRI is tremendous. You guys have all done just terrific work on that.
It is great when we can use that.
Yeah, good idea. So the prescribed fire we know is what we'd like to see, right? More of and more frequent. Mm-hmm. And so the hesitation has been to light the fire, right? And so working with Kevin, he and I have put together a prescribed fire prescription for our Indian Peaks WMA. And originally our plan was to light the fire on our WMA and show the benefit of prescribed fire within that climate zone and habitat region. And then hopefully that would spur BLM and some of our other federal constituents to do more of that same type of treatment. And we started working through the burn plan, the prescribed fire plan with Forestry, Fire, and State Land, who are our prescribed fire resources. And we found that it's more difficult than you would think to just light a prescribed fire. And so we then brought out the BLM and realized that the eastern half of Indian Peak is RWMA and the western half is BLM. And so we're really hopeful that their document gets signed and they have a NEPA document, because as soon as it's signed, the prescribed fire prescription is written and needs just a couple signatures to be lit. We're hopeful. We're asking for funding for this fall to light that fire. And
so with in regards to that, sorry to cut you off, but one of the complaints I've heard is every time there's a lightning strike and it starts a natural fire, they run out and put it out in 5 minutes. Well,
They do.
Can they
I
just
see
let
them
it burn?
all the time.
Can't they just let it burn instead? Or I mean,
they have to have a plan for management of those fires before they can let them burn. And so if they don't have that plan in place, then they do have to go by their rules and laws, go put them out so that they don't cause further damage. And proximities to towns, like the Big Summit fire was, burning towards communities and things of that nature. And so that triggered them to put those types of fires out. So there are some rules that they have to abide by, but we're hopeful that if we can light this first prescribed fire, then that will set the standard of we want more of this, and the BLM will be partnering with us. And so hopefully we can then partner with them down the road. And I know their long-term plan is from about Atchison Creek north to Indian Peak in that upper elevation zone along the ridgetop to do several different prescribed fires. And so we're hoping this is the start of many like it, but also chainings, bullhogs, and lop and scatters to be very abundant out there as well.
They've done a lot on state and private. The NRCS has helped a lot of the ranchers in those cases, and it just doesn't seem fair because they're doing it on their private and they're contributing to these. Well, the animals are coming down on our reseeds because there isn't any being done in that area. So it's a kind of a
we hear those complaints. Right, we hear those complaints, and
it's
that's
not fair
why
to the ranchers that they do all this, these projects. We've done over 8,000 acres on our own, property, but then the animals come down on ours, and the BLM needs to participate because it's
and
not
that's
fair.
why our commitment is as soon as that document's signed, we're going to allocate resources to those areas. We feel like that's an area in the state where we're behind the curve. We should have been doing more sooner, and we realize that. And so we're working with the federal partners and trying to push them to those areas. As soon as we have that NEPA document signed, you'll start seeing work in Hamlin Valley, and then I think we're probably 1 year lag time before work in Pine Valley starts, but then we'll start doing work in both sides of the hill. And
there's a lot more development in Hamlin Valley. Pine Valley is very rural. We own 3 of the 5 pieces of property or whatever.
Sure.
And we'll let you beat it. We'll let you burn it all up. I'm telling you right now.
Well,
but yeah, so there's not as much, private in those areas. So it would actually be easier, I'll bet, in the long run.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely consider all of the options once we start working through those areas and try to just put the very best treatment type on the ground that's going to give benefit but have control. So that's our game plan, and we're looking at some of the Iron County in between. So we've talked about the Perron Front, we've talked about the West Desert, the Bald Ridges, and that country as well is getting looked at right now. Adams Well, all of those areas we're actively doing treatments, and part of the puzzle is putting it together so that the livestock producers can still use their allotments and use the range, but use it in a way that we can do the treatments and manipulate their livestock around those treatments to still keep their numbers,
I appreciate that because that is a
have the
problem.
work done on their allotment as well. So
Yeah.
Awesome.
Great.
we'll work with you guys. We're trying our best. We're trying to get it so that the NEPA document signed, as soon as it's signed, we're gonna
Go for it.
push the pedal
Perfect.
down to the floor and get going. So
I had a deer a couple years ago, just was it west of the Coral Pink Sand Dunes? What was that called out there? You guys did? Was it BLM that did that, or was that?
it is. So
or-
yeah,
or
their Yellow Jacket is kind of the project
It was-
area out
It was
there.
amazing I mean, it was really enjoyable hunting out there, and the grass was that tall, and they left stands of trees for the wildlife, but it was really neat. You could see the benefits, right?
Right, and I'm directly working with those projects as well. So I cover Beaver, Iron, Washington, Garfield, and Kane counties through the WRI process. So all the projects in all of those counties at some point come across my desk, and so
Well, good
Nice.
work. That's awesome.
thanks. And we're looking to do that same thing here in Iron County on a pretty large scale in the next 5 years. So
Awesome.
It's great.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we do need the rain and snow.
thanks for taking the time. Thanks for hearing us.
Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
bet.
Appreciate it. All right. We'll go to number 1. This is a public hearing, discussion, and possible approval of proposed road dedication subdivisions, George M. Vandenberg Family, LLC, and Sagebrush Avenue, LLC. 6 parcels, approximately 126.15 acres, located within the south half, southeast quarter, section 2, and north half, northeast quarter, section 11.
While I'm bringing that up, to go over that, I just wanted to let you guys know how nice it has been to work with Kevin in his role here and what he's done to help prairie dog problems that we've had in terms of doing this PVA, or what we're calling the retrospective analysis, that's going to help develop the conservation strategy. We have good people in a lot of different places now, a lot of change from what we had at the federal level, and with BLM, Fish and Wildlife Service, and some of the earlier people that we had working with us in the earlier DNR office with Chris Kelleher there now, having a higher level of responsibility. All the people are just right now, I think. It's a great opportunity for us. It's not going to happen overnight still, but it's really good.
Well, and Reed, you've done a lot too. And we
Well,
appreciate it,
Yes.
too.
It's
Yes,
nice
we
to be able to
appreciate
have
that a
people we
lot.
can work with and coordinate, because it's really helped the county get some things done. And the WRI project helped us, just put a new well in on the property that we had over here for prairie dogs and manage that. There's just a lot of good partnerships there that is really going to help. I don't think people understand what it's doing for prairie dogs in the future for development. It's really going to make a big difference. So
Yeah.
thank you, Kevin.
That coming,
Well, what am I keep?
there's your mouse.
There's
Where do I
Bruce.
get? Where do I get it?
Hey, before you guys leave, can I say something real quick while he's bringing that up? We have Mrs. Wright, Teresa Wright from up north, bring down the poison eggs for our bird problem that's out of your division, and we appreciate her so much.
That's actually not from us. That's out of Wildlife Services.
Is it? It's a little different then.
Department of Ag.
Okay,
That we
okay.
coordinate with the same group.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Okay,
I
thanks.
think this will
We'll
work.
talk to you this afternoon.
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Kevin. Looking for one that says 8 February, the DWR one. Can I do a PowerPoint or just the PDF? Let me do this PDF, might be easier. Let me do the PowerPoint then, because I can take the whole screen.
Did you plug in the other deal?
I can just use the keyboard, that's fine. That'll make it easier. Thank you, Commissioners, for that brief. All right. Yep. This road dedication subdivision is a result of trying to help solve a bit of a problem that had been created by recording deeds without a subdivision process, and it came as a result of us doing the belt route and realigning Vandenberg Road from the frontage road, and there were several things that all happened there at the same time, and this is an attempt to try to clean all that up. And this road dedication subdivision is a process that the county put in place a few years ago that allows for the dedication of roads and to create legal lots on the parcels that are left by the physical separation of the road. We have a lot of properties throughout the county that are single parcels that are broken up physically by a road. And the interstate did that to us many years ago with I-15. We have a lot of properties that you just can't even physically get to from one side of the property to the other because they are split by the interstate or by other roads, and they're still all the same parcel, and therefore they have to do a subdivision in order to create a separate parcel for properties that are physically disjointed. So that's what this is. It's an attempt to create 6 lots. You can see the pointer here is very faint. This doesn't work very well. I can put my cursor there. You can see here, this is I-15, and let me just give you a little bit of a better overview of the area here. This is just off of the north interchange in Canaryville, okay, the Hamilton Fort exit. And as you zoom in, this piece of property was rezoned commercial just a few years ago. And this is what the property looks like currently from an aerial. And you can see that there's portions of that down in the bottom right-hand corner here that is separated on I-15 over here. And when we put the belt route in 5700 West, and here's the old frontage road coming off of here and going down through to Vandenberg Road, that used to come straight into here and add a little different alignment. So all these things created a situation that made this property difficult, and that on this zoning map you can see the existing parcels that were recorded by the recorder's office when the Vandenbergs had sold a portion of that property that's there on this side right here of that property, and then the developer came in and broke those pieces up and recorded deeds for them, but it had never been subdivided. And so this process is to create 6 lots. You can see the lots here of what's left over after the roads. So this is the big parcel. There were really kind of 2 big parcels, the one on the top from Vandenberg Road and then one on the bottom. And this was a separate parcel, but it also contained this piece of property with it, all the same parcel. So this I-15 split that physically. Now it'll create this as a separate parcel, this is a separate parcel, this one, and this one as separate parcels. So 6 lots of remainder parcels. The confusion for us came with the creation of when this lot was created originally and sold. It's not under the same ownership now as what the Vandenbergs have for the rest of this property. So we're leaving that out of this subdivision because you can only create the minimum number of lots through a road dedication subdivision is what exists. And this in order for that property to develop in the future, and he's going to sign the plat. He hasn't signed it yet because he's in California, but he'll sign it when he gets back on Friday. But I didn't want to hold this up for that because I'll just hold it until I get that signature, and then it can be recorded. So that parcel just stays out, and his signature block is on there saying that he recognizes that before he can get a building permit, he'll have to subdivide that property or do whatever is necessary to make it a legal lot. And he may be able to attach it to another parcel if he acquires other property. There's several options for him, but at least he knows what he needs to do to get a building permit. So road dedication subdivision, the main difference between that and a typical subdivision is that this allows those lots, for whatever's left on each side of the road, to be created without the provision, that we typically get with subdivision, wet water, sewer, road improvements, all of those things. It can be done by just saying we're recognizing these roads, and because they were physically separated, those parcels now can be legal lots on each side, and then whatever they need for development infrastructure will be required at the time that they're ready to develop. And so that's what this process does. That's just some more information about it, I think, that we've covered. And so that's an introduction, explaining what we're doing, requires a public hearing, had a recommendation from the Planning Commission to approve, and so open the public hearing.
Okay, the chair declares this public hearing open. Any comments? Seeing none, I'll declare, well,
We do have the Judy Jensen, Vandenberg Jensen, and Mr. Roberts here representing it. I don't know that they have any comments to add, but they're here.
I'd really like to
Answer any
divide it
questions.
that way because that's our only option actually now at this point. We did not know that those parcels were illegally assigned tax ID number because I'd been paying taxes on them for 11 years or so before Dad passed away. I had no idea, and I went and talked to Reed and said, okay, what can I do with this and this and this? And he said, oh, that's an illegal lot. So that's what brought this up, because I didn't know. And meanwhile, we had sold the 2 acres to another person. So anyway, this has created this. So if it's approved, then we can go ahead and.
It'll be much easier to develop now anyway with these separate ones.
Right.
Yeah.
We all just
Yep.
divided it anyway. And we had sold it in 2007, I think it was, and then they defaulted, and we got it back in 2009. And they're the ones that put in those separate parcels. And when we got it back, I just had the tax ID numbers for those parcels, not knowing that it hadn't gone through the correct process. So we kind of acquired this problem because of someone else.
thank you. Seeing no other comments, the chair is going to declare the public hearing closed.
Move on.
And call for a,
Motion?
yes, that's the word.
I have on the screen, just for your information, the approval process, and it's always good in the motion to include the findings, that it is in conformance with the ordinance, and that we've considered and evaluated all of the things that are listed there. You can see on the list by the ordinance that these are the things that are being considered and typically would be included in the subdivision, but because these are things are being deferred until development occurs, then those are the things that we would just be aware of for approval, that it meets the ordinance. Those are the findings.
Great, thank you.
Okay. I'll move for approval of a proposed road dedication subdivision, Georgia M. Vandenberg Family LLC and Sagebrush Avenue LLC, 6 parcels, approximately 126.15 acres located within the southwest. Do I need to read the total?
You can just say as stated on the agenda.
As stated on the agenda.
Be a lot easier.
With
Pop out, make her do it.
with the road dedication, with all of the aspects of that, with the flood control and the culinary and all of that, right? Okay,
Perfect.
thanks.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Come on. I'm really struggling today. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You can just blame it on COVID, Mike.
I'm blaming it on COVID because,
It's still COVID.
well, like in this morning Department of Reports, I couldn't remember Bree's name, and I talk to Bree all the time.
The time. Everybody says
What's
that
Mike's
really
excuse?
does do
I have
that.
had COVID.
I don't know. All right, move on to number 2. Public hearing, consideration of possible approval of a zone change for property currently zoned residential. 1, to change for to residential 5, R5, located approximately 4,500 north, 2,300 west Cedar City, Utah 84721, approximately 60.65 acres, located within the south half northwest quarter, northeast quarter, and southwest quarter, and northeast quarter. Section 16, Township 35 South, Range 11 West, Iron County, Utah. Appraisers, whatever that is. I forgot what the APN is.
Assessor's parcel number.
Assessor's parcel number. D-528-5. The applicant is Greg Bullock et al., presented by Reed Erickson. So I said all the legal stuff. So now
Thank you, Commissioner. This is just a brief orientation of where the property is located. It's just off of Mid Valley Road, south of Mid Valley Road. As you can see out in the valley, it's just located between off of 2300 Airport Road. And this is the property as it's zoned and where the tiering is. So it's in Tier 2. It's this property right here that's zoned currently R1. It has R1 half around it and some R1 adjacent to it. But because it's at least 40 acres, it can be a standalone piece. So it's being zoned R5 because it's 60 acres. As we zoom in just a little closer, you can see the parcel there. You can see the subdivisions that are adjacent to it. This is the Sunrise subdivision and the Parkview subdivision. Parks at Deer Hollow is here. So it's Rancho Bonita is here. So it has a number of subdivisions around it, but they're all smaller lot subdivisions. Here's what the property looks like from the air. Currently, you can see the subdivision here to the west, a peak view that's been developing half-acre lots down through here, and then the Sunrise subdivision right here. The sewer line runs back along you can see a sewer easement where it was put in right through here. And most likely, these lots are being divided, well, we have the two issues. There's the zone change and then the subdivision. I'm going to talk about them together because it's the same project. The zoning needs to go to from R1 to R5 for several reasons. One, they just wanted to have larger lots, so they're splitting the 60 acres into 6 10-acre lots. And so they wanted to have a larger zoning, and it would require larger frontage on 2300 West where the frontage is. Let me just show you the layout of that. You can see with the north arrow here, this is 2300. So this is really looking east, the top of the map here, but it creates these 6 lots along here. You can see the sewer easement is located here. Most of these properties will probably locate their homes mid to back part so they can get into this sewer line, because then they don't have to go out here and cut the road, and their elevation the fall isn't very good here. But then there's a pump station further down, and just for your information, I might just show you.
Quite similar to what Preston did, right?
In terms of, yeah, but not for the sewer. So what I wanted to point out was just the sewer. There's a sewer pump station right here where all this area all drains and comes down to is pumped back up into the 2300 West line. And so that's what this line going across here is. And part of the reason they didn't want to divide up into smaller is because then they're really limited by the number of connections then can get into that lift station, that pump station down there. And so this allows them to have larger properties. And the biggest difference between the R5 and the R1 is that the R5 allows for them to have animals there on the property without having a home on the property. R1, R2, R1 half subdivisions require a home to be built on the property before animals can be kept there, so that the neighbors aren't dealing with animals that the people aren't dealing with. And that is a problem we've had over the years, that provision in the ordinance has really helped us in that regard. So this is part of the reason. Some of them aren't ready to build yet, but they want to build some corrals and start putting their animals there. R5 would allow them to do that. They're larger lots. The uses that are allowed in R5 are a little different than what's in R1, so that's what they're choosing. It fits with the area, it fits with the neighborhood. The lots, even though it's zoned R1, you can see here on this side, these are larger lots. These are 2 and 5-acre lots. These are all larger properties, and they want to build larger properties here. They'll probably, the developer of this property has been talking about rezoning it to R5 as well. So it's rural, agricultural, larger lot areas out there, as well as some of the subdivisions, and so this fits in with the intent of the neighborhood and the zoning. So we can just, the zoning, any questions about the zoning? Let's talk about and hold the public hearing on that. We'll have to take action on that, and then we can look at the subdivision.
Okay. Chair declares public hearing open. Seeing no public comment, Chair declares the public hearing closed.
The normal things that we look at with rezoning property, these are the things that the Planning Commission reviewed and made a recommendation to rezone the property, take into account, the availability of water, sewer, fire flow. This will be on the Water Conservancy District water system. Hydrants are already on site. They can hook onto that system and serve their water needs, culinary and fire flow. Drainage has been taken care of as it drains back to the west and to the north. Accommodate all of the issues that we've talked about here, and find that it will not adversely affect the general health, welfare, and safety of the area, and that it complies in every way with the ordinances for the zone change.
All right. I'm going to entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll move to approve the zone change for property currently zoned residential R1 to residential 5 acres R5, located at approximately 4500 north, 2300 west, Cedar City, Utah 84721. Approximately 60.65 acres located within the south 1/2, northwest quarter, southeast quarter, and southwest quarter, northeast quarter, section 16, township 35 south, range 11 west, Iron County, Utah. APN number D-528-5, applicant Greg Bullock.
Do we have a second?
Yes, second. Sorry. Get the
It's
prod.
been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
With the zoning of that property now being R5, it allows for the development of the creation of these lots for 5-acre parcels, 10-acre parcels, 6 lots on this property. Here's just another different view of the property, but it complies with the subdivision ordinance. This, and just a unique aspect of doing a minor subdivision when there's still improvements. Typically what we do, minor subdivisions are only done when there are no road dedications, but sometimes we still have improvements, and so we still have to get bonded for those improvements, and they have bonded for the exact amount of the improvements. And so I would just ask for your consideration in the approval of this subdivision that it be approved, subject to them revising their bonding commitment to 110%. Right now it's just at 100% because they got the part of the challenge we have on this one, and the one coming is this was all done without a county engineer, and it was done by the previous one was done by Platt and Platt, so we couldn't. And so it was okay because we have a deputy engineer who reviewed the construction drawings on that. But this one was done by the deputy engineer, and we didn't have someone else to review the construction drawings on it. So we had to get another deputy engineer and have Platt and Platt under contract review the construction drawings for this one because it was prepared by Go Civil. Go Civil is normally our deputy who reviews the Platt and Platt stuff. Okay, so it took longer to get it all done, and so they got the bonding numbers, and they got the construction drawings approved with the engineer's estimates, and they took that amount and got bonded, and it was $24,900 and something dollars, and so that's what the bond was for, not what our ordinance requires for it to be 110%. That would cover any time delay and inflation cost for that. So my recommendation is that it complies with the ordinance, it has the signatures on the plat, but it just didn't get the correct bonding number in time. And of course, this was all done because we had to send it in 3 weeks ago to get it in the paper to have a 2-week advertising period and everything like that.
So Reed, I have a question. So on a situation like this, are they required to bring the road up to our standards?
It is currently.
It is now. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
if it wasn't, would they be required?
That's correct.
So we don't have these same problems we had from the old
yeah,
AAs
absolutely.
we've been trying to do.
Yeah. Any new subdivision requires road improvements. This required the dedication of additional width on 2300, but 2300 already has the road in, and they're not putting any new roads in. So 2300 was already there,
Was
but
the
they did
approved
dedicate
road.
the additional 7.5 feet to get us from the 75-foot right-of-way, which is the master planned road. It had 66. Well, we needed to go to 75, so they dedicated the other 7.5 feet, but there were no improvements required for the road. But they are, as you see the layout, there's a common driveway. You can see right here, 1, 2, 3. So it'll come off, and there'll only be 3 entrance points because it's a 75-foot master planned road. We want to minimize the access points. And so each 2 lots will share 1 access point, and those access points require the asphalt from the improved road over to the property and a 30 by 30 pad before it splits off and goes to their property. So it has that improvement. And so where their driveways will be improved, additional width out to the road, but not the road, for a 75-foot master plan. We just acquire the width.
How does that work when they plow snow and there's quite
That's what I was
large
gonna
amount of
ask.
snow and it leaves a big windrow on there? Are they just responsible for that?
Yeah.
So the county doesn't have to go down into the subdivision.
No.
They're not required to do
No,
that.
just like everywhere else in the county that has a driveway, they just
Yeah.
plow it through,
Plow
and
it and
people
off
have
they
to
go.
open their driveway.
Okay.
So that's the reason for the bonding costs, is that there's physical connections for the water system, and the sewer and the pads and stuff, and that's what the bonding is for, of $24,000. But that's why we're asking for that consideration.
Okay. I'll move for approval.
Yes, we need to have a public hearing
Oh,
first.
we gotta have a public hearing on that one
Or
too.
did you already?
No,
think
we
we did
just
on this
moved.
one.
You did on the zone
We
change.
did on the zone change.
But I didn't think you did on the
Okay.
subject.
No, you're right. I was thinking we did too.
Oh, I
for
thought we did too.
Okay. Okay.
But again, in
Chair.
case we didn't.
Chair would declare a public hearing open. Seeing no comments, Chair declares the public hearing closed.
Again, these are the considerations for a minor subdivision that the county commission would consider. And all of these things have been accounted for. That's what the bonding is for, and the planning commission made their recommendation to the county commission for consideration to recommend approval for this minor subdivision approval.
Great. Call for a motion.
So if I move on this minor subdivision with all the provisions plus the bonding for 110%, proposal of the minor subdivision, HB Ranch Minor Subdivision, 6 lots located at approximately 4500 North, 2300 West, Cedar City, Utah, 84721, approximately 60.6065 acres located within the south half, northwest quarter, northeast quarter, and southwest quarter. Northeast quarter, section 16, township 35 south, range 11 west, Salt Lake Basin and Meridian, Iron County, Utah, APN D-528-5. And the applicant is Greg Bullock.
Second.
It's been motion and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That is approved. All right.
Signature on that.
Oh, yeah.
We have our meeting at 11:30, so let's just do those later. You can
Okay.
finish the rest of this meeting maybe by then.
Excellent.
Okay.
Item number 4 on the on the agenda today is public comments. Do we have any public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 5. Oh, yes, sir.
I just had a question. Will I be able to comment on item number 5?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
absolutely. Item number 5 is ordinance 2021-1. Is approval of an ordinance of Iron County, Utah, amending Iron County Code Section 17.36.230, location of mobile homes, travel trailers, recreational vehicles, boats, camping trailers, truck campers, motorhomes. Amending Section 17.17.030, the table of uses, and Section 17.20.010 in the definitions. Adding Sections 17.36.232, the recreational vehicle temporary use 1 to 16 days, and 17.36.234, recreational seasonal use 17 to 180 days per year, and providing an effective date. We'll turn the time over to Reed Erickson, and then absolutely you'll have a chance to comment.
Thank you, Commission. You are aware, as I sent out on Friday, appreciate the comments that we had for the ordinance to consider additional changes. So I've added those into the ordinance that provides an exception to the requirement of a building permit for properties that are on the mountain in seasonal areas that then can be there up to 180 days without having to get a building permit if they take responsibility for that themselves by doing this affidavit as suggested by Commissioner Cousins. And so I've made just a couple of little changes in that Paul reviewed and was fine with, and so I've inserted it into the ordinance. And
Now that would be for everything, not just the mountain. That was meant to be for the whole ordinance.
well, I asked you which section it went in.
Uh-huh.
And it goes into section 36 234, which is the 17 to 180 days. Those are the ones that.
Is that just the mountain?
Yeah, that's the seasonal recreational vehicle seasonal use.
Okay.
So those are the seasonal use provisions.
So the intent of this, you want me to speak now, or do you want me to?
It's up to you.
Go ahead.
I just the intent of this was to give an exemption to individuals. So, for instance, and Karsten Reed, our new assessor, brought up an example of a friend of his that is living on 1.5 acres of his property in a trailer. I think it's an RV actually. They're living there full time, and he doesn't make a lot of money. But he does provide for his family. His wife stays at home with their 2 small children, and he hauls water to his property. He uses a trough heater to keep it from freezing. He's got his RV winterized to where they can live in that year-round. He hauls his sewage off with a tank and dumps it properly into a dump station. And without an exemption like this for an individual like this out in the west part of our county, with the ordinance, he would have been forced off of his property. And so I felt like, and I did run this by Phil Schmidt, the chair of the Planning Commission. He felt good about it, and that was kind of his concern and mine all along, and others, that we needed to protect these people from getting thrown off their own property. And so this was intended, if I made a mistake, I apologize, but this was intended to apply to those situations as well as the mountain. So if we need to insert that into another section as well.
Yeah, I think what we want to do is put that into 1736 230.
230, okay.
Yeah,
that would apply to everything?
Which then applies to everything. That's the section entitled Location of Mobile Homes, Travel Trailers, is more the general category.
Okay.
And so there's a A, B, and then we could make that C in that section 1736 230, and then that would apply to everything.
Maybe I could just read that for the record. It was basically adding an owner-occupant exemption, except for R1/2 lots and subject to private covenants and restrictions. So we wanted to protect the subdivisions that were built out, maybe that have curb and gutter, sidewalk, streets. Okay. And okay. Okay.
Reed, is that what you sent me? Is that what I have?
Uh-huh.
That,
We really wanted personal responsibility for the people to take care of themselves and take their personal responsibility. That's what was really important there.
So this is number 8, property owner occupant exemption, except for properties in the R1 half lot zoning district and for properties in any subdivisions with paved streets, curb gutter, sidewalks, and subject to private covenants and restrictions. The owner of a legal lot of record may, in lieu of providing documentation to comply with the timeliness in subsections 1, 2, 3, and 4 of this section, provide an affidavit to the county building and zoning department stating under penalty of perjury that A, the property owner is the legal owner of record of the lot property described in the instrument affidavit by legal description and parcel number. B, the property owner is an occupant of the recreational vehicle. And C, the property owner assumes personal responsibility for water supply, vehicle winterization, and sewage waste disposal in accordance with state and county health guidelines, regulations, or through a legally permitted off-site system or service. And Reed, did you say, and the other thing that I think is important is when they sign this affidavit, they also give us their mailing address so we can send them a billing. And here's the bottom line.
They would have to register with the clerk's office to get the garbage service.
However we do that,
Yeah.
I think it's important because human nature, those folks, they're accumulating trash and they're going to take it to the nearest dumpster. And that's causing problems in our county where these dumpsters are being overflowed and people are having a hard time. And so if they're paying their fair share, and I think that's fair that they pay their fair share, and if they don't pay that bill, I don't know, Nicole, maybe you can, and John, that it can be attached to their property taxes. Can we do that to where it's, if they don't pay those bills, they can be attached to their property taxes, and then eventually that can be taken care of?
Yeah, the ultimate penalty there is to take the property away at property taxes.
And they should be responsible to pay their fair share. I think whether it's if it's garbage or any other municipal services, taxes or fees or anything that they are responsible for, they should pay those like anybody else. And I think that's one thing we need to make sure we have tightened up in here.
So what we would then do is, instead of putting it in 8 as a number 8 under 1736-234, which is the way it was presented,
Okay.
we would make it a letter C under section 1736-230.
Okay.
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 Yeah.
Which would pertain to all location for all mobile homes, and then it would be appropriate to add a D to the list. You've got a A, B, C there, and the D would read the same as number 5 does in that section where it says solid waste service. A residential solid waste service shall be required the same as mountain cabin properties. 5 months, one time. There's 2 provisions, one to have it year round and one for the 5 months. So we'd just put the service in for the year round. If it's going to be year round, or if it's a seasonal on the mountain, then it
And
would
it's
be
6
the
months,
seasonal 5
months.
months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And there's a lot of work gone into this, and we appreciate the Planning Commission and you, Reed, and everybody. But when I talked to Phil, even after they approved this, the Planning Commission, he said, Paul, I've still got some concerns. And that's when we came up with this additional. And I hope, other than the solid waste, this D we've added, is there anything else you can think of, Reed, that we need to?
How do we get the garbage? You will.
Well, when they bring that, the way I saw this is that when they bring this into the building department to show the affidavit that they're taking responsibility for that, we would say we need verification that they have a
Yes.
garbage connection
Yes.
from the county.
Yeah,
That's what we
good
do
idea.
typically for any other permit.
Exactly.
For a building
Okay,
permit.
That's what it should
So we would just say, yeah.
You need to go
They
get
do
that,
that.
verification and bring back.
And then,
Perfect.
Then they would be good.
But this, to me, this addresses the issue of sewage. You know, if there's somebody that was dumping the raw sewage on the ground, it does give us some teeth.
Well, and they'll be able to put in a septic tank if they choose to do that, and,
if they
and
have
go
water,
through the
they have water,
health
then
department.
they can put a septic.
Yeah, water.
Yeah.
All right, sir. come up to the microphone and state your name so we know who you are, and go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Volney Morin. And first of all, I'd like to compliment Mr. Erickson on the wonderful job he does presenting information to you. As a member of the audience, his presentation seemed very clear. He has a good team behind him, and he's a credit to the county. I guess I have a couple of minor concerns and one overall concern. The minor concern has to do with the affidavit. Is that something that will be prepared and available to somebody who is already financially strapped, or is he going to have to seek the services of an attorney and have that done? If there could be a statutory, a format that's already approved by the
Is that what you
county.
thought, Reed, that you would have a form?
We could prepare one.
We could have that in the clerk's office,
Yeah.
and we don't charge for notary services.
Okay, well, that's a relief.
Yeah.
I think that's an important part of your proposal. My overall concern has to do with government getting involved in regulating private property, private personal property, on private real property. I see it as a slippery slope and wonder, where is it going to stop? Will there be regulations on the use of kitchen knives, or painting a shed, or putting fertilizer in the ground for your garden? You can just see how well-intentions can grow to the point where we have regulations that choke initiative and rob people of their personal responsibility. So I can understand perhaps a public interest in some regulation, but I would urge the commission to consider what limits they see, not only for now, but 10 years from now. How much further will government intrude into the use of private personal property on private real property? And I'm positive that Mr. Cousins mentioned a lien on property taxes if there are violations. I could see that reasonably being extended to cleanup expenses if they choose to dump sewage on their real estate, as opposed to forcing a neighbor to bring a lawsuit or some enforcement for law enforcement to do something. Mm-hmm. I'm not opposed to the most efficient way to see that people are going to take care of their mess. There are, unfortunately, some people that don't do that. There are people that pick up messes and people that make messes, and we want to put as small a burden as possible on those of us that are law-abiding and responsible. The other thing and final thing is a matter of perception. When I first heard this presentation, I think it was about a month ago, my first thought was that this seems to be a pattern of more regulation, more taxation, more complexity, when there may be a more simple solution. And part of that simple solution, I think, involves trust. And while I've already said there are people that make messes, I think it's important for us to remember that most of us are responsible. Most of us take care of our own business, and most of us just want to be left alone. Thank you.
And Valdi, I'll just mention, and I agree with everything you said.
We've struggled with this. We have. That's why it's taken us this long to approve it.
On the flip side, we get a photo of one of the dumpsters out by Lund Highway, out in one of the side roads, which is a big container which many neighbors use.
And it's overflowing.
And there's feces smeared all over the side of it.
They've
buckets
dumped
of raw
that.
sewage. There's trash overflowing, and so there's got to be. We want to cut the bandage to fit the wound, right? We want it to be very narrow, very precise, and that's why we wanted to insert this section 8 is to really put it back, like Marilyn said, on personal responsibility. It's your responsibility.
Well,
And that's what we're trying to. It's been and there honestly, we haven't had an ordinance to even make anything right now under the ordinance. It's not even legal to do anything. So we really needed something.
okay.
But we're trying to. But with that, we've tried to fix it with cutting the bandage, fit the wound, and make sure it's limited in nature. So it's been quite a process.
No need to use the jackhammer when a toothpick will.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, I think I've expressed my concerns. Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you for
We
that.
really appreciate that. And I'd just like to say I appreciate the work of the Planning Commission and Mr. Erickson and my other two commissioners to exactly what Paul said. Let's make the Band-Aid fit. Because there has been, and it is our intent. It is not our intent, or the building department, or the sheriff's office, or anybody else to kick anyone off their land. We just simply need some kind of regulation for those most egregious cases, and it will always be our intent to work with people to help them have a healthy place to live, and not our intent to come and throw anyone off their land. Yes,
Just
sir.
one
Help
question.
protect
Is it-
all the people.
Yeah, exactly. Is it your intention to vote on this right now?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is on the agenda
Okay,
for vote.
I understand that. In the future, when there are items presented to you that weren't presented in a previous hearing, it would be nice for those few of us that care to come if there was a printed version of what's being presented.
I believe you can get.
So, yeah, that's always available in the clerk's office up until and during the meeting.
So,
Did
in
not
fact,
know
you
that.
can email it, can't
I
you?
can.
So you can.
Yeah, and it just so happens that I didn't get the red line version here in my packet, so
Okay,
otherwise I would have had that up on the screen as well.
just for future
Yeah,
consideration.
yeah.
no,
Go
that's
go to the
always
clerk's
available in the
office.
clerk's office.
Can I go to the
that'd-
clerk's office and give him my email address to
Yeah.
Yes.
include it?
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
That'd be fabulous for you.
And Volney, that's one thing that I brought up a while back is, and it's nobody's fault, but oftentimes since I've been on the commission, the planning commission seems to have 2 or 3 months to mull over these kind of things and talk about them and debate them, and then a lot of times it'll come to us and we. It says, discuss and
Approve
approve. So we have 5 minutes to talk about something that took them 3 months to discuss, and so we've delayed this a little bit.
Now, I will say it always says discussion and possible approval.
Possible.
Possible. That's true.
All right, that gives you a wiggle room. But
I think you might be giving me a little more authority than I have.
so anyway, so we have delayed this a little bit to have time to mull it over. So
Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Okay.
So you ready for a motion?
Yes.
Is it my turn?
Yes.
So I will move to approve of an ordinance of Iron County, Utah, amending Iron County Code 17.36.230, location of mobile homes, travel trailers, recreational vehicles, boats, camping trailers, truck campers, and motorhomes, amending section 17.17.030, table of uses, and section 17.20.010, definitions, and adding section 17.36.232, recreational vehicle temporary use, 1 to 16 days, and 17.36.234, recreational vehicle seasonal use, 17 to 180 days per year, and providing an effective date. And just to note that we did insert, and it is reflected in the current draft, but we did move the added language from section 17.36.234 to 17.36.230, and added the subsection D, which discusses the solid waste issues. Does that cover it, Reed? Yes. Okay.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Reed's going to go have a party today after that.
Thank you, Commissioners. I do appreciate that. We do have the folks on for the 11:30 Zoom meeting. If you want to, if it's possible to just table and come back.
We've only got just a couple more that'll take just a
So
second.
this lease agreement, if you want to move to that one, we could probably do it in about 3 minutes.
Then you have personnel, right?
There's
Oh yeah, there's only one item.
Yeah,
on
but we are
personnel.
T plus 5 minutes.
Get
so-
it coming and we'll come.
Yeah. Okay, item number 8, discussion and possible approval of a lease agreement between Iron County and Cedar City Corporation for APM B-390 and part of B-393-3. This is the
So
Cedar
this is-
City Senior Center.
This is an updated lease that Mike Edwards and Tyler Romerill from the city hashed out. Really, it just updates some of the information. Did you want to speak to it, Mike?
Thought we had this on, this was approved, I don't know.
January 11th.
Yeah, we did,
ago.
didn't we?
I signed it.
And
January
I
11th.
think that we sent the wrong version to the city, and so they asked us to sign and send this version.
Oh,
So it's the same thing that we talked about before.
oh,
It's just we need you to sign the right one.
How about if we slip in that they're going to deed the property to us?
I'd love to slip that in, but probably
that would have been nice.
So yeah, it's the same issues that we've discussed and addressed before.
Okay.
Okay. Call for a
I
motion.
will move for approval of the lease agreement between Iron County and Cedar City Corporation for APN B-390 and part of B-393-3 or the Cedar City Senior Citizen Center.
That should be for the Cedar Seniors,
Oh.
right?
4.
Is that right?
Yes.
Four.
Yeah,
Four.
Actually, it should be of.
Oh,
Of the Cedar. Okay.
Of. Okay.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jennifer.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Is signed. Move on to number 9, corrections. This is approval of a pay rate adjustment for Sergeant Aaron Cheney. That effective date is February 7th, 2021.
Hello. All right. Under the request and direction of the sheriff, as well as some meetings that we've had between Lieutenant Shaver, myself, and Commission Liaison Blake, my proposal for your consideration is a pay rate adjustment for Sergeant Cheney, effective date 2/7 of 2021, which would increase him 85 cents per hour.
And I'd just like to add on that there was this was an oversight to on a pay issue previously that the commission did approve before our time. We were able to find the minutes from that date and verify that was approved and just not initiated. And what that would do would move that would actually max him out as far as his pay range because of his years of service. So he's
at the maximum.
He's at his maximum range, and it was an oversight, and he's not asking for any back.
Oh, wow.
Anything.
It's retroactive.
Oh, that was very nice of him.
Just that we address it. So
So the motion needs to just state that just what it says?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, then I'll move to adjust the pay rate for Sergeant Aaron Cheney, effective date February 7th, 2021, to add 85 cents per hour.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm going to embarrass Rich Wilson's
Oh,
first day
very
is today,
good.
and he's here. So I'll introduce him. I'm sure he's not ready to talk. I just wanted to formally say hi and welcome.
Yes. Welcome on board. We're very happy to have a new engineer.
I feel like it's 0 day.
I'm up here.
I think the most difficult thing I saw was how to approve timesheets.
It gets
Mine
better.
and everyone else's. You know, I told him a little story the first day at my former job. I wanted to be efficient, so I put my name on all the permits for future use. Went to another office and found I'd signed everybody's permit across the state. So
Good job.
don't give me what do they call that?
Carte blanche.
It's the authority on a blank sheet of paper. Anyway, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to get working. Jennifer gave me a book 2 weeks ago that I started reading called The History of Water in Iron County.
Oh, nice.
It's actually quite an interesting book. in 1909 there was a court case about too many sheep up in the valley on the water supply, and the judge dismissed it because if he couldn't see germs, it wasn't worthy of coming before the court.
That's fun.
You know, the poor mayor was also the health officer and a doctor, and he was just beside himself.
Well, I'm so glad that you're here. I just want to tell you that we've got all kinds of projects going on with the road department.
That scares
we will
me.
be getting with you.
Yeah, I'm sure, and I'm sure things are in good shape and good order. I just need to move into the position and move forward with them. Thank you.
Oh, welcome and thank you.
Thank you.
On the spot.
Do we have any prairie dog matters or issues with boards that we haven't already resolved?
We hadn't decided on those other dates. Have we ever got the dates taken care of on the planning and zoning? We didn't
no,
have good dates.
We still need to work through that.
Yeah,
We don't have
yeah.
anything pending though. I
Okay.
don't think.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay, very good.
we appreciate everybody's time, and we are a little bit late for our next meeting, and so we're gonna exit and go get on the Zoom across the hall. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.